stream and write in. We are here together, but in case anyone doesn't know who we are, I think let's just start with the three M's introducing themselves. So, Maria, since you're at the top today, why don't you start?
All right. Hi, I'm Maria. I'm a college student, writer on the side. I write sci-fi and fantasy.
Maggie?
I'm Maggie. I write young adult fantasy fiction, and yep, that's about it.
Okay, I'm Misha Garrick. I write young adult and new adult urban fantasy and epic fantasy. And yeah, basically, I'm from South Africa. Did I mention? No, I did not mention that today. So I'm from South Africa and I just do random writing and stuff as well. So, what will you guys be working on today if you're doing your writing?
Editing still.
Ah, okay.
I will be working on a short story for well, it's one of my classes, but might as well just it's just a short story that may turn into a novel at some point.
Is it the same one you were working on last week?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Very cool.
What about you, Miss?
Sorry, continue. I'm
No,
interrupting. No, I'm just going to do probably a bit of random stuff. Maybe get to book 3 again for once. But I also have my book on writing that I want to do some editing on Wattpad, and my communications plan that I have started working on that I need to finish, because it feels terrible to me that I actually get paid to do communications plans for other people, but I haven't done my own. So I have to do my own. So that's basically now the mission. And then I also have something knocking around in the back of my mind that I kind of want to write. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah. All right. So for today's topic, I was thinking the whole week, I was wondering about what we should be talking about today. And then it kind of occurred to me, because it's actually something that's kind of going on in my own life at the moment. And it's now, I don't know if you guys saw the subject or the cue card or whatever you want to call it for this video, which was living your story. Because basically what I was thinking about is how it's actually interesting that stories actually bleed into people's lives. And so I thought it might be an interesting thing for us to talk about tonight, because it's actually, it's definitely something that I've found that, for example, if I'm writing a character who likes horses, then it would get me to ride horses and things like that. So, but I thought we could just do a light-hearted conversation about how stories impacted you guys, whether it's your own or stories you've read or anything like that. Just something nice and fun and fluffy, because it's tempting, being as it is October, to talk about nano prep, but I think we've done it so many times now that it's I don't know. I don't think if there's anything else that we can possibly still cover about that right now. So
probably not.
Yeah.
All right. So how do stories influence your lives? Have you ever thought about that?
Yes and no. Not like
Not on that.
But I think they come up.
Yeah. Okay, so have you guys ever thought that you have to write about a specific thing and then decided, okay, so you need to go do lessons in that thing so that you can understand it?
It's more the other way around. I'll learn something and then I'll be like, oh, now I can include this in a story.
Ah, okay, cool. So what's your favorite thing of that happened?
Wait, you want me to give an example?
Yeah, if you want.
When I was really little, I did a fencing camp for a week, but I remember the forms and what that was like. So when I have like sword fighting, sometimes I'll take a little bit of that, or one of the tricks that I would do to tap someone, and I include that in the story.
Cool.
So it helps you think about like the movements, and then also, well, you got to think about your feet placement because that's like really important in fencing.
Yeah. When I was at university, I was actually the chairperson of the fencing club. So I'm like finding it so funny that we have that like in common. Yeah, so it's something that I've also found about fencing. I didn't do fencing because I wanted to write a story about it. I've just always wanted to do fencing. But it's also kind of fitting for this conversation because the reason why I wanted to do fencing was the Three Musketeers. So it was
Oh.
I always wanted to know what it would be like. So that was kind of how I started and where I got my interest in it from. But of course, it's completely different, but it's the closest you get most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually like, and in the end, I do use that. And also the other kind of related thing I did was our fencing club did a little bit of an extension in what they call Western martial arts. So it's like actual broadsword and longsword and rapier fighting, but not sharpened, but still so that you can learn what the fighting is like. And it's so not what most people in writing epic fantasy think it's like. But that I did literally take because I wanted to do. I knew I was writing an epic fantasy story, so I wanted to know what it's like to actually fight with like a heavier kind of sword. And yeah, it's actually and a lot of like the way that I write my Nordian's fighting style comes from that actually, because this whole gosh, people, that whole thing about the honorable people fight clean. It's like, no, the honorable people fight to win because they don't want to die.
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's kind of where my thing came from. Like the fighting style as I see it in my books come from is actually from the more the technical ways in which Western martial arts work. But that's actually, but I have a thing of like, if a character does something, then if it's possible, then I would actually want to try to do it myself. For example, riding horses, which yeah, totally happens, stuff like that. But yeah, it's actually weird. Like for example, if I and that's what actually got me thinking about it, is that when I travel, I like flying, but I actually generally don't like taking off, because it's actually one of the most, it's that thing where you watch like a documentary and the most difficult thing about it is you learn stuff that's probably better that you didn't know it. So it's like taking off when you're in an airplane is actually the most dangerous time to be in an airplane. So the whole time is like, ah. But now recently I wrote like a thing about someone who likes flying, but like jet engine aircraft. And then kind of, I don't know why, but somehow it's as if I channel this guy, and then when the plane is taking off, I actually get this adrenaline rush from it now suddenly, because it's just like, this guy loves it, and this guy's kind of part of me, so my brain's like, yes, I love it.
Wow.
Okay.
You're thinking on the characteristics of your characters.
Yeah, it definitely, I find that it's definitely bleeding into me. Like for example, I'm afraid of heights, but because Callan loved riding horses, when I went to learn horse riding, I just kind of got over that fear of heights, despite the fact that it's a lot higher than you think being on a horse.
Yeah.
And yeah, you look at a horse and it's like, yeah, you're tall, but you don't really notice how far it is to
Like sitting on
until you're looking on it. Yeah. And so, but that, like in the beginning, when the first lesson I took, I was like, people might think I'm mad, but like when I'm like, Callan, why do you love this so much? But then, but it does, but eventually you kind of, it definitely, I find that stuff like that colors me, luckily in good ways. For example, if I write like a serial killer, I don't think I'm going to be like really particularly tempting to go stalk and kill people, but
That's good.
relief, no, but yeah, so but that's kind of what got me to think about this, is that I think stories have a way of bleeding into people's lives. So, and it's not really obvious to say most of the time that, like, ooh, I read this story and it completely changed the way I see the world. But I think any story we interact with does have a certain, like, impact and influence on us, even if we don't always understand how. So,
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Hmm.
I mean, I know I've read books where, well, it was funny. There's this book where the character really loves reading and books, but the authors were authors that I'd never read before, like Wilkie Collins.
ooh,
So then I read The Woman in White and The
mm,
Moonstone because of this character, because this character's like, oh my gosh, I love these books. And they mention the titles. And so I was like, I'm going to find these books and then read them. They were
you
good.
named one of
I
my
enjoyed them.
favorites. Yeah, it's actually but it's definitely like, I love also like what you're doing. If someone mentions a book, then I'll go look for the book. Or if there's like a story that's based on a certain mythology, I'll go read up about the mythology. So it's definitely like, I have found many of my interests through reading and discovering something and thinking, goodness, this seems to be an interesting thing to get involved with. Let me go try it.
The literal rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
But yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Well, okay, so it seems like today's subject is going to be a bit of a dud. So I don't know. Do anyone have any other subjects for conversation today? Because
Well,
it
I think
feels
we'll be able to carry on the conversation because I think I had an incident where like the story like bled into my life, or maybe it was like the other way around, like what Maggie was saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is actually going to be this is actually going to make sense, but or it's gonna like this is a live your stories thing. But when I was in middle school, when I was in middle and elementary school, I would actually like my time on the playground would be like kind of like role playing with my friends. So I'd role play with friends, including like the neighborhood kids and like back up where I lived. We would like role play like our fantasy and all that stuff, like off the top of our heads. We don't know what we're doing half the time. And I actually like when we go back to my computer. I was like still young at that time, but like the computer I had was like early 2000s, no internet computer, um, Microsoft didn't even have like the camera up here. And I was actually going like type it down. I think I still have those stories.
Wow.
cool. That is very cool. I also, when I was a kid, that was also kind of where I got my start, like, other than poetry. But even before I could write, when I grew up, it was basically on my mom's side of the family. We were living quite close together, so it was my uncle and aunt, but being the married couple, not a brother and sister for my mom. But then, and then my grandpa and my cousin, they lived in the same house, and then we were like just up the street. So me and my brother and my cousin, we were basically almost more brother and sisters than we were like family, and we basically grew up role playing like that. And people used to say like, "Oh, we can't play with them. They don't play stuff like hopscotch. They play stories." But it was just like, and what it would be, it was almost like a almost fanfic, if I can put it that way. Instead of us writing it, we would act it out. Like, for example, if we saw a TV show we liked in the days before DVR and before like streaming, if the show was over for the day, it was over for the day. So then you're like, no, it's only half an hour. I don't want it to end. And we found ways to kind of extend the story in our own heads. And that was kind of, I think, in a quite, for me as well, quite a formative experience, because that was kind of a very, I want to say, forgiving way of experimenting with stories, even though we none of us actually realized that was what we were doing. But because there's no record. We didn't write it down like Maria did. Now I'm thinking like, damn it, we should have. But but it was like, if it didn't work out, we just started something else. If it sucked, it didn't matter because there's no evidence of it ever having occurred. So, but that was actually so. So I also, so it's so cool to know that you also did that, Maria, because I think it's like a really it's a nice, even now, like I can remember some of the stories we played, and I do realize now in retrospect that some of the stuff, it's not necessarily that I took it verbatim, but the kinds of stories and the kinds of characters that we played out kind of found their way into my fiction. So it is kind of interesting to think how that actually served as an influence. And yeah, it's actually special to think about.
Yeah, I know I have the records somewhere, but I can still very much remember them. Like they were kind of like cute and fluffy. Like Studio, I think I'm going to say this name wrong, but I'm completely sure it's Studio Ghibli.
Oh yes.
Yeah, like that's exactly kind of like how it was. Like maybe like the fairies and all that stuff. Like it was just a very cute, nice way to like pass the time. I remember in middle school, the first middle school I went to, like they kind of chased us, the people who were kind of like watching us for recess. They would chase us away from like the trees, even though we were just there. It was just, I don't know why they did that. But then again, there was a lot of problems at my school anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And then and then the second one, well, like I went to, it was kind of fluffy in a way, but it was also like creepy in a way. I like it kind of like I don't think any of us intended to. I think it just kind of like just bled its way in, and it was just weird. I had to actually write that one down, but I could still pretty much remember it.
Yeah, I think most of ours. The funny thing is that the ones I remember, the ones that stuck in my mind. I mean, we did like a very wide variety. So, we'd like play along if we watched something like Thumbelina or Cinderella, then we'd play along during the video and sing the songs and stuff. But like the things that we usually took out and really played for like days and days and days on end were things like Robin Hood and Sinbad and like more adventure-y stuff. So I guess, and that was, I mean, two girls and a boy doing that, and we played like more action girly people, and especially because a lot of like it's 90s television I'm talking about here, that kind of now you guys can kind of start telling which series it was that we were watching at that stage. But like it was like more it was almost like self-insert fiction where we created characters to where we saw ourselves fitting in, but it was more like being part of the adventure and stuff as well. So but there were some of the stuff, when I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, good grief, it's a good thing people weren't there to see it, because we went into some really fucked up places sometimes. So it was like, it's a little bit like, but yeah, no permanent psychological scarring that I can tell. But,
oh yeah, I remember those. It was just questionable.
Yeah, because I think also like for kids, we don't know what is like questionable. So if you see stuff on TV and you kind of take it somewhere else, it's like, okay. Now in retrospect, I'm like, good grief. But yeah, no. So it was actually like, but as you kind of get to like a stage where, for me, I kind of got to a stage where I became more serious about like the writing part of it, of realizing that I can actually use this creativity of stories and actually turn it into storybooks. And that's kind of where I start counting my time as I'm a writer, even though I was published basically when I was like 8 or 9 or something. So, but because for me, I count being a writer, and for me personally, as when I started writing fiction. Because the poetry was more for me, and my brain is kind of the thing I did in between everything else, where the writing kind of took over. So, anyways, but that's kind of where my like that role playing part of me kind of came to an end. But I never really, I don't know, did you guys get involved like with role playing games like board games or computer games or anything like that? Because I've never I've honestly actually I don't think I met people who ever got involved with that in like any serious capacity. So I think if I had met them, I probably would have gotten like really involved with it. But like I just never got around to it, so missed it completely. But did you guys?
No, but Maria said yes.
Big
So-
time. I was so into like the RPG games, like anything I could get my hands on. The biggest one is Pathfinders and Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Cool.
I mean, like, 'cause the best campaign I was in was a Pathfinders campaign when I was in 11th grade, and I loved my DM so much. Like, I still kind of keep in touch with him because he's back in like another college and I'm here.
Yeah.
But he basically made up this entire he made up like this entire world, this entire campaign. Like it was just he just made it on his own. It was pages and pages and pages of like notes and all that stuff and like characters. Like basically he could have published it in a way. I'd be really excited to read it.
Yeah.
And we all grew attached to our group. We were getting attached to our campaign. And we all had our shenanigan moments, also known as "Why would you do that?" Although he rolled a d20, but it ended because it was the end of the year, and our DM was a grade above us, so he was graduating. We were going into the next grade. So we had to end it prematurely with none of our character arcs ever touched, really. I mean, we kind of got like one person's character arc touched.
Yeah.
But you could tell how much shenanigans we got into because we didn't even like get to our own character arcs. We just did all this other stuff that like actually went along with like the main campaign. It's just that we didn't like touch on our own personal arcs. But like I still like kept those the character, and I'm like, those are very close to me. I'm still trying to find like another campaign where like I could be able to like kind of like do that in a way, like just make up my own campaign. Because I mean, one shots are cool, but like they're just one shot. They're just a day thing. Whereas like with a whole campaign, it's just like you can get so involved into it, and so involved into your characters, and shenanigans can happen again. It's just like it's just a very fun day. It's just very fun, and we had it every Friday, so it was like the week is over, classes are over. Max's house, 7:00.
Nice.
We're gonna get the pizza guy to come over.
That sounds awesome, I have to say. That does sound like a great way to spend time.
Oh yeah, it was very fun. Yeah, unfortunately I don't like talking to those those friends anymore because of some issues that happened during the year.
Oh, that's
You know, the typical high school stuff.
High school was a rough time.
Yeah, it was a very rough time. So that was kind of like my easing, my okay, I can be able to like de-stress from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe you'll find another group with your college. Like,
there's a bunch of people who play D&D, so we'll probably get together and play D&D.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, awesomeness. Yeah.
I met 2 people at this club called Science Fiction Society, which is basically where we're going to be talking about like science fiction and like their impact on society and all that stuff, and all the types of genres of science fiction. So yay, because that's mostly my field. But 2 girls were thinking about having a campaign where elves and I can't remember the other races, but they're enslaved, so it's kind of like you gotta think outside of the box of humans and elves to pick your campaign race, and I'm like, okay, that sounds awesome. Let me join.
That
Nice.
sounds very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But you guys never have like gotten into like RPG, like
Well,
not even Fire Emblems?
I did like a bit of like Dragon Age computer game, but like that's the closest I really got to like really getting into RPGs. The thing about stuff like that, oh, and also Skyrim, but the thing about that is, I got into it after I started writing, and the issue with it becomes it takes so much time, and at that stage I was at university, so I'm like,
yeah.
university has to, that's a given. I have to do university, so I have like these amount of hours. Am I going to spend them playing through someone else's story, or am I going to spend them writing my own stories? So it was like, yeah, so my own stories won every time, and they still do, but it is something that it interests me. I like the idea of it, but I find that just getting myself to relax into it is a bit challenging. So yeah.
Yeah. I have only done one D&D, I guess what you would call a one shot. So last year, my coworkers were like, anyone that's interested in finding out what D&D is and kind of experiencing it a little bit, will hold like this little game and just tell us if you want to sign up and everything. And so they had it all set up. So we just kind of did that. And I just kind of now understand it a little bit more, because before I was like, I hear about this a lot, but I've never like, I guess, found a way into it or found like who was doing it really. So I never got involved with it, but I was really curious because I knew the general idea that it was like following a story in a way and having that adventure, which sounded like really fun, but I never found a way to get into it. So that was my one and only experience. It was good. We had a lot of fun. We managed to kill the villain. It was really funny what happened. It was like a holiday one, so this person had a candy cane sword. I kept dying by snowball, which was kind of really disappointing. They had so many snowballs, and then I'd be like, oh, almost down to dying, and so then this other person would have to heal me like over and over. I was very unlucky. I kept getting like hit in the face with a snowball. But then the person used like a candy cane sword to behead who our villain person was, which was really interesting. But it was fun.
Okay, you know what? Our next write-in live Saturday write-in should be a D&D campaign.
Well, you're the one with the experience. So.
we do like you do a campaign or like a one-shot thing, and then we do it because
we can like create our characters throughout the entire week, and then on Saturday we could be able to like campaign them. We're doing this Critical Role style.
That would be interesting.
I think that would be so much fun. I'm like, yeah,
it's not NaNoWriMo prep.
Well,
different.
We can do it something like completely different, and we call it NaNoWriMo prep procrastination.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we can get more people into this write-in. That'll be fun.
Yeah, like we could get like the people in the chat to participate or something. That would be cool.
I'll do a very well-motivated Shakespearean. I'll do a very Shakespearean speech to get everybody very much pumped.
To motivate them, yeah.
Which basically is just quote off of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Nice.
Very cool. No, I think we should do it. I'm just like, yeah, I love this idea. But in our most like experienced player here is going to have to DM for us, because yeah, I don't know how else we would do it. So
well, I don't really know. Like, I never really DM'd. I was just a player, so we're all going to be confused together.
Oh well. It's all part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to say you don't need to have the dice. There's like an app that you can be able to like push like I'll roll a d20.
Mm.
Right, yeah. Because there
So
are
if,
a lot of dice.
yeah, I don't have really much money. Actually, there's like a comic book shop that sells probably D&D dice
Hmm.
within my local area because I'm on a college campus.
Yeah, probably.
So, there's probably a lot of stores around you that have something like that.
They're catering to us.
Yep, they're like, hey, college campus, we got to have all the college-related items. Yeah, that's always interesting. All right.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about the like campaign in my head.
Oh god.
Maybe instead of my short story, I'll procrastinate it and write like a campaign instead.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Well, if it goes well the first time, we could always do something where we have characters from all of our stories somehow taking place in this one mega story that somehow
yes,
That'll be freaking awesome.
let's do that. Gosh, now who would I play? I'm like,
Yeah, you have a lot of characters.
yeah.
Me too.
He. We have to think about this. I think this is a freaking awesome idea. I'm like, we should totally like invite some of the other people with it because I think some others might be like, it's like, yeah, let's do it. So
I feel like at least one other person on our chat has got to know more about D&D than all of us combined.
We should put in a query with everybody else. Ask them what they know.
Yeah, I wonder if Jim isn't like secretly like a D&D player. You should ask.
Maybe, I don't know.
But we should ask. We should like totally throw it out onto the channel and see like what we get back. This sounds like so much fun.
This is amazing.
I love how these spontaneous kinds of things happen. It's like so cool. But yeah, I think maybe though before, instead of saying next week though for date wise, because I think let's just all assume this is happening. I think we should just make it 2 weeks from now. No wait, yeah, let me just see. Yeah, let's make it 2 weeks from now, the 19th. Then it gives us all time to get it arranged, if it's possible for you guys. If you guys can make it on the 19th, but then it gives us, because especially if we need to like do prep beforehand, which Maria is going to have to hold our hand through the process so that we can know what we are supposed to be doing.
Right.
My creative writing
I
teacher
can't
could
do
be
the 19th. I'll be working.
Oh no. Okay.
Hang on, let me just. I'm available the 19th, probably.
Okay, but now Maggie's not available the 19th, so it's going to have to be what's the 12th like for you guys then? But then it's very much. Then basically it's next week.
I know.
How we do next week?
I mean, I'll be here next week, but
Me too.
I don't know if we have 1 week to throw all this together. But I guess this will be the test run, and we could have future ones just in the future.
Yeah, we try one out, see how it goes.
Like a one shot.
Yeah.
And see how this goes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is gonna be completely weird, and I don't know if this will be a good idea. But maybe we could do. Okay, we could try to do the one shot next week, which will be our test run, and if it goes well. The entire month of November, we have a thing called NaNoWriMo procrastination.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh.
Let's do it. Let us do that.
I didn't even think it was actually going to work, but I guess it is.
Hey.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can see how it works out, and then if it works out, we do it. I'm always, because the thing is, I mean, if we do nano, we have to do like writing the whole week long. So having like a break away from that on the weekends is going to be like a cool way to
Yeah.
get
Or
some.
be
And then,
a character, I mean, that you're still working with if we decide to do that.
Yeah, it
So
will count
still
as
kind of
writing.
know them at the same time that we're playing with them.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think yeah, let's try it for next week. Do like something quick and light and just fun, and then we see where we go from there. And, but yeah, because I was actually, the reason why I'm laughing like this is this whole week I've been like, what am I doing for Nano? What am I doing for Nano? So I'm like, you guys gave me like this idea now, so I'm really appreciative of that, because no, it's definitely, I've just realized that I've been doing Nano since 2010. So and every year I write about Nano and doing Nano and what I'm doing for Nano and everything. So I'm like, I really just this year I don't want to talk about it. Like not in the kind of detail that I usually do. And it's not just Nano, it's also all the camp Nanos for like 3 or 4 years now. So I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of Nano content for me. I think I'm done for now. So I thought I need to do something different. So I think this covers that kind of requirement to be different. So
Yeah, like maybe for like all our characters, it could be like the story that we want to work with. Like, because if that's the case, like I've been wanting to do NaNoWriMo this year, but I've been like trying to like figure it out between two different stories that I have. So this can actually make it a little bit easier.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, it doesn't have to be fantasy. I've heard about some campaigns that can be sci-fi or like maybe like a science fiction fantasy.
Yeah.
This is gonna be fun.
I love this idea. I love this idea. I love this idea. Okay, I'm trying not to make too much noise because I see Maria's earphones plugged into her ears, so I don't want to be like ah.
No, like because I'm smiling, they're like popping out.
Even so, I'm just worried about like making, because I have a voice on me, so if I make a lot of noise, I can make lots of noise. So I'm like trying not to be like ah.
No, you're good. I mean, I can always like just turn down the volume.
That's true. We can control your voice.
Also true. Yeah, but it's also the sudden noise that comes up that might be like the problem.
True.
But yeah. No, but I think this is going to be awesome. No, I think yeah. I love this idea. All right, so this is also, I have to admit, like I said, I've always wanted to take part in a game like this, so just getting an opportunity to do it with you guys, I think it's going to be such a special experience. So it's going to be like awesomeness. Okay. I'm so excited. I actually know someone who also does that plays role playing, who's also a writer. But I have to get in touch with her because I haven't been in touch with her in almost a year. But I'll ask her if she's interested, because she's also the reason why I'm thinking of her is she's like, one day I'm dragging you to one of these game parties.
You're gonna drag her in.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, come here.
Plot twist.
Exactly, plot twist. But yeah, so yeah, this is such a fun idea. Okay, but yeah, so I think for now, let's leave that there, and then we can talk about it like throughout the week and get like the details ironed out and figured out who's doing what or what's necessary and so on. But then we do that together, build it up.
We're gonna have to make like a whole new channel in our chat dedicated to this.
Yeah.
Sure. I have a suspicion I can actually do that.
I think you can.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think London gave me like admin rights way back then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, if we can always do it like a DM, like direct message, and then we can probably just add people to the direct message.
Yeah, we can make like a DM group as well. I think that we can invite people to. Let me just go see. I'll figure it out later, and then we can. I also actually have like a Story Finders channel thing server that I opened up way back when I decided on my branding stuff, but I have nothing going on there, so we can maybe go use that. So I'll invite you guys to that. Maybe that's the easiest because it's already set up. So she laughs maniacally, but yeah, okay. So I know. Anyway, so I think okay. So what I was going to say, we can try again.
Yes.
We can just talk about it throughout the week, get everything sorted out, figure out how we're going to do it, and then we can do and then in the meantime we can either shoot the breeze a little bit because we're running a little bit ahead of schedule right now. We're at 40 minutes instead of the hour it usually takes us to get around to writing. So we can either start writing now or we can do like just chatting a bit more, whatever you guys feel like. So I'm leaving it up to you. Trying not to be too bossy.
I mean, I would like to do some writing.
I
But
concur.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So let me just go and open my timer. And then, shall we do a 10-minute sprint to start?
Good warm up.
Yeah, I think so too. I have to say though, today, it's just something random that I noticed. Sorry. Is that I scheduled this video like a day early, but it's like nobody actually showed up today, which is like really weird.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that in the future, I'm just going to schedule it like 5 minutes before I go live, because apparently the closer to the go live I get this video scheduled, the better. But it's just like a random aside that I just noticed. It's like, because usually within like the first 10 minutes, I have at least like 3 people watching, who isn't like the 3 of us. So yeah, weird. Okay, so I'm going to start counting down, and then we are going to sprint for 10 minutes. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. And time, how did you guys do?
I think I got a few more pages through editing.
I got 196 words.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well done. I got sidetracked reading an article, so I will get to more.
Good.
Yeah, I will get to writing. I'm just like, my brain's still like at the moment, so I'm still working at getting back to any amount of regular writing. But yeah, any excerpts you want to share?
I guess I could share an excerpt.
Cool.
Let's see. Okay. Elena's job was editing work. Simple as that. She worked at a publishing house where everyone seemed a little less tense than elsewhere. At first it spooked her because of the change of atmosphere, but then it became normal. Maybe Miss Allen is just more spooked than usual. Or maybe it's because of the material they have to review can be scarier than the odd life they're living. Yeah, and then that's when it was her time, and I was like, oh.
Oh, that last sentence was really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's really interesting. The odd life they're living. I like the phrase too.
You, Maggie, are you sharing anything today?
Yeah, I can share what I just went over. It was the start of a chapter anyway. So let's see. Tiergan had Hadar in a headlock when I entered the cellar. Hadar elbowed him in the stomach, but Tiergan didn't even flinch. Hadar's blows weakened and his eyes dazed. Enough, I said, striding over to pull Tiergan off. Tiergan loosened his hold on Hadar, and they both stared at me. Are you ready to spar? Tiergan said, throwing Hadar to the ground. I've been looking for a fight, I said. I spared a glance to make sure Hadar was all right. Tiergan nodded, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. Hadar grumbled, wobbling to his feet. He's strong, he warned, gasping for air. I'm quick, I said, keeping my eyes on Tiergan. His muscles flexed under his shirt, and he stood 2 heads taller than me, but I knew I could win. He crouched low, keeping his hands spread, too far from his body, I thought. I kept my hands in front of my face, my right hand closer to my jaw. My right foot slid backward, and I shifted my weight. Tiergan shifted on his feet as well. Even though he kept his hands too far apart, the rest of his body showed he knew how to fight. The bend to his knees and how his eyes tracked to my every movement, I couldn't rush into this. We prowled around each other, taking small steps as we got closer. He threw the first punch and I blocked, feeling the blow through my entire arm. He grabbed my wrist and his fingers gripped with unbreakable strength. He wrenched me off my feet and I tried to kick out, but missed as he twisted my arm behind my back. I slammed into the ground and barely kept in my groan. He was strong, and I'd have to find a way to turn his weight and strength against him. All of the moves I knew couldn't help me as I tried to throw him off, and my arm hurt. I gritted my teeth. I concede. All right, so that's where I got up to, and then the fight continues. But
Nice. Very nice fight description.
yes, so that was also, to get back to our earlier topic, was some stuff that I learned that I then incorporated in this story.
Nice. All right, so shall we go right into another 15-minute sprint then?
Yes.
Let's see if I actually get some writing done this time.
You can do it.
You can do
I
it.
can do it. All right, so okay, let me just activate the 15-minute thing. Okay, I'm going to count down from 5 again, and then I'll see you guys. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. And time, how did you guys do?
Another 4 pages, I think.
Very nice. You're still muted, Maria. Wait.
So I got a 269 words.
Good job.
Nice. I did some editing. Okay, so
Yay!
woohoo, it's a win.
Good job.
Yeah, I'm working on my the book on writing technique and stuff that I have on Wattpad. So I went through that a little bit because this is something I've been promising to do, and I just realized that it's been like 2 months since I even looked at it. So I'm like, yeah, maybe it's time for me to do like a little bit of that. So.
Yeah, there's a bunch of my work on Wattpad I have yet to actually get back to.
Yeah,
I think it's because I want to like get like the actual work done and then publish it, because I know if I like work on it, publish it, work on it, publish it, it's not going to get finished at all.
Yeah. No, I do the same. I also, except for this book, I actually always post finished stories. But with this, because it's actually kind of almost more like an instructional manual, it's actually something that I used to update weekly, but then life happened like 3 years ago. No, even longer. Good grief! 4 years ago, life happened and I put it on hold and I promised I'd get back, and then I just never did. And now I started editing it so that I could pick up the strings again, so that I could actually figure out where I was going with it, because it's like 100. Just to give you an idea, the thing's name is The 100 Things You Should Know as a Writer. So, or something like that. But anyway, so it's 100 things, and I think I'm at like 65 or something like that. So I just have to go through all the other old ones so I don't repeat myself or write anything contradictory.
Yeah.
But that just the process of going through each of them 2 at a time has now taken me 2 years. I just realized that, and now I'm feeling like, yeah, like, oh, this is horrible. So, and even now I get people who read it and it's like, when are you posting the next update? And then I'm like, yeah, I'm working on it. But now I just realized, good grief, I really need to work on it faster, because otherwise people are going to be dead by the time I actually have it done. So, yeah, fantastic. So, all right. So, do you guys want to share an excerpt?
I can.
Cool.
I
could
could go back.
Huh?
Say again, Maggie.
Oh, I was just saying I could go back to where I left off. And
Me too. That's what I'm thinking about.
I can also do like a short random excerpt, but it's not like going to be exciting like yours, because it's probably stuff you already. Yeah, I'll do the one because right now I'm actually talking about like things that make you a better writer. So I have like a little bit from that I can share. But it's just like, keep it short because I assume you guys already know this. So yeah. All right, Maria, you can start.
All right, so I'll just start from where I left off. But even with the change in atmosphere, there was what seemed to be a need for spontaneity. The number of hours that her peers worked seemed to change throughout the week. Once the clock reached the time that work was over, everyone seemed to scatter like mice that were suddenly found in the kitchen. Elena, on the other hand, had a routine of going to work and getting some shopping done for her apartment. You should be more diverse in your schedule, a coworker told her in a casual tone. It helps keep people wondering where you are. But that doesn't make any sense. And what do you mean by people? The conversation stopped as soon as it began, the coworker giving her a feared look in their eye. None of her coworkers ever wanted to get to know her or even invited her to lunch. Elena assumed at first that it was because she was new and had to be indoctrinated into this odd town. But as the week pushed on, it was becoming stranger. She had already walked into a mess with her job. She had taken the position because they were open and she needed a job after her last one shut down due to financial issues. But the publishing house, because of its erraticness, was behind on publishing manuscripts. It wasn't even a popular place to begin with. Whatever was going on was beyond the simple norm of the town.
Nice.
It's a nice simile with the mice scattering in the kitchen.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought of Ratatouille as I wrote that.
That is so funny. Yeah, I can see where you would think that.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is honestly just, I have to say, writing short stories is kind of hard, and I'm doing this to like push myself.
Yeah.
Because you can either do 2 short stories or a short story in a novel chapter. And I don't want to do a novel chapter because that's what I'm used to, so I want to do a short story. However, short stories are so difficult for me.
Yeah. They're a lot harder than people think they are. They think, oh, it's short. And
The one I submitted last week, some people were like, "Is this like a chapter to a story?" I'm like, "No, this is like a prologue to an actual story."
yeah. Everyone's like, I feel like this is the first chapter of something else.
It's not.
It's like, this is supposed to be contained within what it is. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also what I struggle with when I'm doing short stories. It's just
Okay.
so difficult to get it contained. Like, yeah, I prefer to keep my short stories contained, but my brain does not like to think about stories that can be contained in like 10,000 words or less. So
Yeah, me too.
yeah, so I think it's good practice though. So
It is.
okay, Maggie, do you want to share? Oh, and I should also say I'm very intrigued by the deepening mystery about this town.
Oh yeah.
Like, we do want to figure out what the heck is going on. But,
yeah, same.
yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, Maggie. Sorry, no, what were you saying?
No. I was just muttering. It's just a very weird story.
Oh.
Yeah. Weird stories are. All right, Maggie.
All right, so we'll pick up where the fight left off.
Mm-hmm.
So I gritted my teeth. I concede. Tiergan laughed as he let me go. That's all you got? I'm surprised you survived this long. Anger flared through me, heating my face as I pushed myself up to my feet. I shook out my arm and faced him. He arrogantly smiled with his teeth. I glared. Again. You sure? Tiergan asked. I don't think your ego could handle another defeat. I snarled, leaping for him. Someone grabbed my arm and yanked me back. I fell into Hadar's chest and he held me tightly. I could have escaped from his hold, but I didn't want to do it in front of Tiergan. His heart thudded in my ear and I could hear its frantic pace. Ruana, Hadar pleaded. Don't. Why not? I said, turning my head to look at him. His brown eyes pinched with worry, and I could see the agitation in his lips. His nostrils flared as he glanced at Tiergan. You don't need to prove yourself, he breathed. He reminds me of all the bullies at the orphanage. I need to be better, I said. Strong opponents mean that there's something to learn. I kept my voice low. Tiergan didn't need to hear me say anything good about him. He is a good fighter, and it caught me off guard, but I can learn from it. Hadar still didn't let me go, and I squirmed a bit to free my hand. Let me do this. I need to at least prove it to myself. He sighed and let go. I just don't want to have to peel you off the floor. I turned back, arching my eyebrow. You really do have little faith. He crossed his arms but didn't respond. He was angry. That much I knew by the set of his jaw. His anger tended to course through him like a storm, and he often shut down to keep it under control. I strode up to Tiergan, peering up into his eyes. Give me your best. He chuckled. Can you handle it? I stepped back several steps, crouching down again. Guess you'll have to find out. He grinned and ran toward me, keeping low. I tried to sidestep, but his arms stretched too wide. He pulled me to the ground, crushing me with his weight. I gasped. Pain radiated up my back. Without thinking, I grabbed his neck and twisted. He fell to the right, and I followed, driving my elbow into his gut. He grunted, and I scrambled to my feet. My hair swung into my face, and I pushed it behind my ear. He got to his feet, and I waited, catching my breath. He swung out, and I blocked, feeling it vibrate down my arm, spreading numbness in its wake. I squatted and drove my elbow just above his groin. He keeled down, but I didn't move fast enough. His arms wrapped around me. I turned, trying to kick, run, but his arms encircled me. I panted. He rose to his feet. Hadar took a step forward, but I shook my head. Tiergan slid his arm around my neck, cutting off my air. My feet scraped the ground. I drove my elbow back again and again. Everything seemed hazy, and the shadows grew longer. My feet hit the floor, and his hand slipped a little. I grabbed it, pressing it into my collarbone. He grunted, and I ducked under his arm, bringing his arm with me. Sweat trickled into my eyes, but I held fast. With his arm twisted and my weight on top, he didn't move. I could break your arm right now, I told him. He coughed, spitting onto the floor. You could. I let him go, and he shook out his arm, rolling his shoulder. Why didn't you? His eyes narrowed. Because it shows greater control when you use restraint, I muttered. All right, that's where I'm going to stop. But it's like fight scenes are like so fast paced. It's like one thing after the other. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. Yeah. You're muted, Nisha. So.
Myself. I like the character dynamics like between them. So it's like
yeah, they have a lot of tension of who trusts who and that they really don't trust each other. So they're taking it out in a fight.
very cool.
But it was fun writing that.
Nice.
I love fight scenes. There we go. If I speak slowly, it works. Okay, so but yeah, it's I love fight scenes. They're fun. But you did really well because I can also like a lot of people when they do like fighting descriptions. As I'm reading it, I'm like, what are they contorting or something? How is this possible? But like you have a very good sense of like where they are and what they're doing, so it's very cool.
Thanks. Again, that's kind of like from my own experience. I'm like, well, I know that I can't physically do like a backflip or any of that stuff, and I know like some people can, but for me, I can't think about how I would include that, so I wouldn't do something like that. I want to do some weird flip trick, some split on the floor and stuff. It has to be like, okay, one thing after another.
For me, stuff like that. It's always like it's also from like my own experience with the Western martial arts stuff. Is that, for example, like with rapiers, when people talk about this massive lunge that they're taking, and you're like, well, that's fantastic. You nearly did a split. Fucking A, but how are you going to recover from that before someone kills you?
Yeah.
You don't. So, yeah, because that's something that I always think that it's always, people have a tendency to write, like, to be pretty. Like, the fight needs to be pretty, but I appreciate fights that are, like, not pretty. Yeah, but it's also, it has to do, this is again channeling, Darian, my character. He's like, don't fucking be pretty, just like beat the shit out of people. So yeah, I kind of appreciate those kinds of fights. And speaking of, if you want to see like a really cool fight choreography, there's a thing on Netflix called Wu Assassins, which is like a series based on like Chinese mythology, but like in modern times, but it's fantasy about like Chinese people, but the main character is Indonesian, but he's adopted by a Chinese triad guy, and then they go fight. It's awesome. It's actually like really cool. It starts like really clunky, but like the fighting choreography is very cool. And the Indonesian main character uses I think that you pronounce it silat, which is like a very different, like everyone else has like most of them anyway use kung fu of some kind, but then he uses silat when he's fighting, so it's like completely different, but it's my style of fighting that I really appreciate, so it's like really cool if you want to check that out.
Yeah, I'll just have to watch.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, so I liked it anyway. Just all right. Now I will stop fangirling, and I'll do, after all this excitement of like cool fiction writing, I am going to do like my instruction manual. So, critiquing. Note that I am saying critique and not criticize. I'm not saying you should nitpick and find faults. I'm saying you should suggest improvements. There's a subtle but very important difference. Critiquing someone else's work helps you to think in terms of what works in a story and what doesn't. It also helps you to learn how to think about fixing the things that don't work. In other words, critiquing other people's stories teaches you how to edit your own. Yeah, so I'll just stop there, but that's where I was.
Yeah, that's good, especially about the critiquing
Yeah.
part, because I think when people think about critiquing and criticism, and sometimes they lump it together.
Yeah, I think people have a tendency to think that they need to find things to be negative about, and it's not really that. But yeah, so.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it is sometimes when I'm reading like 100,000 words of someone's book and it's not particularly well done, I do get to a stage where I'm like, but yeah. but I still try to restrain myself. But yeah, it does get harder. But yeah, when I'm critiquing for free, I will actually stop where I'm like, yeah, okay, I know what the problems are of this novel, so just like start with these, and then when you're done with them, come back to me.
Yeah.
But because the thing is, like certain things like plot, goal, conflict, stakes, if those things are not correct from the start, and they've also, I should mention, inciting incident, if they're not there in the beginning of the book somewhere within like the first third of the book, you're kind of stuck. So I can tell very quickly when a book needs work, and then it's really, and then someone pays me to like read 100,000 words for them, and then you have to keep commenting like, yeah, this is because you didn't do the inciting incident when you were supposed to way back then, so now this is a problem now, and this is happening because of this. So every single thing that keeps, it's like dominoes, and everything you comment on, and then it looks like it's this massive list, but it's actually going to sort itself out if it just fixes the 5 things that I'm going to tell him about in my editorial letter. But it's very annoying to have to now to choose between, is this guy going to feel like I copped out to not finish the book? So it's like, yeah, probably he's not going to get that I actually understood what's going on. So yeah, I have to read the whole thing. So that sometimes sucks, but
Yeah.
but on the other hand, it does teach me a lot because I can actually see how, but just from describing, and that's where this kind of comes from as well, it's just from describing situations to someone of saying like, this is specifically why it is necessary to have a character set a goal for the story. You know, stuff like that. You kind of need to explain it to yourself before you can explain it to someone else. And then when you explain it to yourself, it just sticks in your mind. So it makes you write better.
Yeah.
So I found it very useful, especially when I started out to do that. But yeah. Anyway, random aside. Okay, so shall we do another 15-minute sprint?
Sure.
Cool. All right. Maggie, do you have to go to work again today?
Yeah, I do have work again today.
Oh, okay. How much time do you have left?
I can go till our usual hour mark, which is for you 7, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay. All right then. Okay, so I'm going to count down again, and then I'll see you guys in 15 minutes. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. And time. How did you guys do?
Good. I might have gotten 10 pages more. I can't remember which page I started on.
Nice.
I got 270 words done.
Nice.
And my mom texted me and tried calling me a few minutes ago, and I was like,
Oh.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I finished one section, so now I'm on the next one. So, making progress.
Awesome.
Yeah. Right. I see we have like 9 minutes left before Maggie has to leave. So, shall we do a quick round of excerpts and then say goodbye?
Might as well.
Sounds good.
Cool. Who's starting?
Maria.
Yeah, put it on me. Let's see. What's a quick one? Okay, I'll read a little newspaper excerpt. In 3 days will be the monthly anniversary of the mysterious attacks that have plagued our town. In the past 3 months, there had been 3 attacks that are connected because of the similar splash wounds. Authorities have ruled out animal attacks after the autopsy of the 3rd victim found traces of an unknown serum in their bloodstream. Everyone is expected to stay inside on that day and not make any contact with the outside world until it is safe the next day.
Interesting. The attacks that are similar, a serum found in the wounds. This is getting, like more and more intriguing.
I would like everybody to know that one rule is going to be broken.
I wonder why.
Nice. You definitely have a really good handle of mystery, because it's just like one thing after another. There's so many like details that you're like, oh, there's so many questions, so you want to keep going with it to understand like what's going on.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I could be able to answer at least most of those questions for this short story.
Yeah.
Before turning it into a novel.
Nice. All right, then.
Your turn.
Yeah, I'll read again. So now we're a little later in the day. Let's see. He couldn't decide this for me, though, and I thought about what Deston had said. Fighting for a reason. I wonder whether I'd ever fought for one. I hadn't ever given myself a chance to think beyond the tasks set up before me. Nervous energy made me feel nauseated. It bubbled in my stomach, a feeling stronger than any I'd felt in a long time. I wrapped my cloak around me for comfort, but it still felt too far away. I got to my feet. The air smelled stale and the scent of stew lingered. I needed fresh air. I needed the stars. I never felt more trapped than when I was indoors. Nature beckoned with the allure of wide open spaces and wilderness far from my past. My favorite thing was to travel for days with just Hadar and sleep under the stars. When we were far from civilization, we could pretend we were the only 2 people in the world. I couldn't do that yet, but hopefully soon, just the 2 of us. Every thought halted and I shook my head. It was wishful thinking to believe that we could escape from it all. Priorities like survival meant finding jobs. I really needed to clear my head. So that's where I'm going to stop it. Wishful thinking, yeah. I love it. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, Nisha.
Okay. Right, let's see. Yeah, great. In this section, I'm going to address one of the biggest false rules in the writerly existence. Of course, it means you'll find thousands of writers who disagree with me. It's part of our lives, I fear. Writing is a contradictory thing, and everyone has their own opinion on what the rules should be. That said, there is a big one that I wish would go away in its current form. The rule? Write what you know. It's so pervasive, somehow always being among the first things that new writers are taught. It's also absolute crap. J.R.R. Tolkien didn't know any hobbits when he wrote about them. J.K. Rowling didn't physically go to Hogwarts, and I bet you that Douglas Adams never hitchhiked through the galaxy, and that's how far I got before I ran out. So
That's so entertaining. And
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
but we're all fantasy writers, so we know the whole write what you know thing is a bit like
Yeah.
I am
It's even like
acquainted.
yeah, it's even like that in like my realistic fiction stories. Like my last one, I talked about like splicing DNA and all that stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm writing, but like because I like wrote it with kind of like an authority, people were like, "Oh, it feels so believable." I'm like, "Thank you," because I don't know what I just did.
Oh, awesome. See?
Yeah.
You can convince people that you know what you know.
Yeah, it's actually that's actually what I was what this whole thing is about, is this write what you know. I believe on this subject that there are three things that a writer has as options, which are experience, imagination, and research. And of the three of them, you only need to use two. So you can either use your imagination plus research, or you can use experience plus research, or you can use experience plus imagination. And that will get you through pretty much everything. You don't need to like know everything down to the most finest detail to
Yeah.
make a story work. So
are you going to
That's-
include those three in this tip?
yeah, basically what I'm going to do is like after basically I'm just trying to get people to get off the old write what you know thing, and it's like
Great.
right, so what you do is these are the three things, and you need to pick two at any given time, but they evolve. It's not always, you don't go with the same ones every time, but it depends. But yeah, so that's kind of it's the whole book thing. Is the concept about it was that when I started on Wattpad back in 2015, people kept asking things about writing that's like, gosh, this is like basic stuff. How is nobody actually answering these people? So I just decided to write something that's not like higher level stuff about like writing, and because there's place for that as well, but I think everybody focuses on that. And there are things like, why is it important not to worry about the cliche, for example, stuff like that. So that's what I'm talking about. But that's also why there's so many of them, because there are so many basics that people need to know before or during the writing process. So
Yeah.
anyway, random aside again. Sorry, I'm going on tangents tonight. I'm sorry. Right,
You're
so
really fine. Yeah.
cool. All right, now we're almost at 7 my time, so we have 2 minutes left. So I think we can say goodbye, but I'm seriously, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Remember to
Yeah.
post in the chat to see if anyone has experience.
Yeah, so I'll put a thing in there, and then I'll also share a link to like a channel that we can use to sort this out for next week.
Okay.
Cool.
Woohoo.
Awesome.
I'll also ask in some of my other if you guys don't mind, then ask if anyone else wants to take part, and then we can see if we can because we can put up to 6 people on camera on this thing. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Right. So let's go do it. All right. So I'll talk to you guys soon, and then have a great rest of your day. Mine is going to probably look a lot like going to bed.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much. And then have a great week, and write all the things if you can write. And yeah, I'm so excited about next week. I cannot explain it to you guys. All right. So I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'm saying goodbye to literally no one, to hopefully optimistic, hypothetical future watchers. Bye.
Yeah.
Hope you come to our thing next week.
Woohoo. All right. See ya.
See ya. Bye bye.